Hey there, guys. Welcome to the channel. So, lucky for the world and our conservative movement, pregnancy hormones have reactivated Candace Owens with an absolute freaking vengeance. And she's on a tear right now, dude, and I love it. But before we get into it, guys, thanks so much to everyone that's been subscribing and leaving such great comments. If you haven't joined us already, guys, join us. Help us to continue to grow. Like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. So, one of the liberals' worst nightmares, Candace Owens, recently sat down with Bill Maher, who I actually really like, right? Bill Maher, he reminds me of what the Democrats looked like, or what I thought I was seeing is probably a better way to put it, back in the Clinton days. You know, back when the left cared about civil rights, freedom of speech, back when they didn't support terrorists. You know, the guy really is the last of his kind, right? And he's usually the only person on the left pushing back on the very, very crazy woke ideas that the left tries to peddle these days, right? But somehow, even as he really is, and as reasonable as he is, and as common sense as I really do believe Bill Maher is, when the topic of Donald Trump comes up, he is just the prototypical lefty TDS zombie, right? It's actually really, really strange. It's like it's the only crack that the propaganda could get in, and somehow it just didn't spread. It just stays right there, all about Donald Trump. It's amazing. So let's just have a look at their conversation, and we'll talk a little bit about it.
I think Mike Pence is running because he thinks Christ ordained him.
I think he's running because he thinks it's in God's hands, and he's a very good friend of God. And like, it doesn't look good right now, but Jesus can perform miracles, because we know that because of bread and loaves and stuff walking out.
I take it you're a devout atheist.
Devout.
Okay, gotcha. I think probably Pence is running because he doesn't know what to do next. You know, he ran a state, became the vice president. What's the next natural progression to think that you can be president? And also because he wants to separate his brand from Trump, which I think he feels like got murkied, and there's some genuine bad blood there. So
There's definitely
bad blood. Yeah,
there.
But I don't think any of them are running to be Trump's VP, because they all trashed him on the stage. Vivek is the only one that Trump would consider.
Trashed him.
Trump.
They kissed his ass.
Trump?
Yeah. The only one who trashed him was Chris Christie.
So this sort of leads me to believe, right, that Bill hasn't even been watching the Republican debate, right? Now, I don't blame him. They've been complete and total trash, for sure. I hate that I have to watch them. But he's definitely not watching, because every single one of those candidates have been trashing Trump in their own way, right? But they've all been doing it. You know, Pence in his fake pandering politician way, DeSantis in sort of his gotta say something but don't want to upset the Trump voter way, Haley in her, let's kill as many people and spend as much as possible sort of way. But Christie, he's been the only one really coming straight with the loud Jersey fat guy persona way, right? And he sucks up all the air on MSNBC, which is probably where Bill saw this.
Chris Christie trashed him. DeSantis said nothing. To be fair, DeSantis didn't say anything the whole night.
They all raised their hand when they said if
DeSantis did the.
Well, okay, but they raised their hand, except for Christie, when they said, would you support him as the nominee? I mean, that's pretty amazing for a guy who's, probably going to be convicted for what he should be convicted for. And I'm sure we agree on this, Candace.
Definitely sure we agree on this.
About, trying to overthrow the government of the United States.
You're just not you're not a weak enough person to really I don't buy this. I think you dance this way because you think you have to placate.
Okay, first of all,
no chance. Just to educate that we almost lost America on January 6th. I just don't buy that you're that soft.
Yeah, I do. And just to educate you a little on this, I was saying this for 5 years when everyone was laughing at me for saying this, that Trump would never concede the election and he would never go away. I was all alone on a raft.
But I mean, you saw BLM riots, right?
Yeah.
The summer leading up to this, right? Where I lived in DC at this time, where you couldn't go outside, cars were flipped, things were burned, people were boarding up their windows. Yeah. But you thought the end of democracy, you can say this meaningful looking face, happened when people above the age of 65 stormed the Capitol. You thought that was the worst thing you've ever seen in American politics.
Well, I mean, what was the worst scene? That was a small part of a bigger picture. The worst thing was that finally we had a president, after all this history that we've had, nobody ever did this, not Al Gore and not Nixon, who probably didn't actually lose their elections. They allowed this peaceful transfer of power to happen. We finally had a guy who decided, of course, because he's insane, decided that no matter what happens, I won this election. There's only two things that could possibly happen. I win the election, or if I don't win the election, there must have been some cheating. It was looked at by his own people around him, including the Homeland Security Department, including the Director of National Intelligence, including every court, federal and state, including his own lawyers, his daughter, Bill Barr. Everybody told him, you lost this election. They looked at this over and over again. Even the Republican vote counters, like the one he called who said, find me 11,000 more votes. Even those people told him. So plainly, he did not accept losing the election, and then he tried to put in a bunch. This is why he's on trial.
I'm just asking
it's not
if
for
you
lying.
believe that day, as the media presented, we're talking about media hoaxes.
I give you my answer. It's not just that day, although that was part of the scheme. I mean, it's not like coincidence that they showed up on the very day that they were certifying the vote at the very place they were doing it to stop that from happening.
And
That's not a
did you
coincidence.
have any questions about why the FBI hasn't been able to find, since we started with media hoaxes, do you think it's strange that they haven't been able to find who dropped off the pipe bombs the night before? Because I think that's the strangest piece.
What pipe bombs? Oh, this is some red herring
bullshit.
bullshit.
No, not red herring. This is in the news. You can watch the CNN, MSNBC. Remember
Okay.
the night before on January 5th, there were pipe bombs that were set outside of the RNC and the DNC headquarters, right? And this was a part of the whole thing. That bombs were about to go off, but they were able to, get the bombs out. This is why, AOC said she had to fly for all this stuff. So I'm asking you, do you have more pressing questions about why they have not been able to find the person that dropped off those
I will
bombs?
have to look into that the way you'll have to look into the moon thing.
Okay.
Because
I think that's a very big piece for a lot of people of just understanding what actually happened on that day.
Look, guys, I know a lot of you guys don't like when I start and stop the video and keep breaking in every time someone says something I don't agree with, right? And I'm trying to respect that, so I let that go about as long as I could. But this is probably the most triggered that Bill Maher gets. And it's when Candace basically says, Bill, I cannot believe that you believe this. You're too smart to believe that. Well, he really does. And, but I feel this exact same way. Every time I'm talking to a friend or a family member that actually has intelligence, and they tell me that they believe the whole insurrection narrative, or they're surprised that I don't, right? I just can't believe that they believe it, but they really do, but I can't understand how this guy, who stands up to the craziness on the left basically every day, doesn't fall for any of their other crazy psyops BS, doesn't fall for the ridiculous things, but every time it comes back to Trump, he's just rambling old guy, make no sense, mushy brain MSNBC viewer just like the rest. It's amazing. It is amazing. This is a common sense and reasonable liberal, and he really does believe that January 6th was almost the end of American democracy. That to me is just amazing, man. I mean, the power of propaganda, especially when it meets your own confirmation bias, it's just insane. I don't understand how anyone reasonable can possibly believe that it was anything more than it was, which in my opinion, this is just my opinion, guys, was a bunch of conservative people practicing their First Amendment right to protest. They were gathered peacefully, and it got out of hand because, there clearly were agitators in the crowd. Many left, many right, many fed, who knows how many. And things got out of control, obviously. And no protest should ever end like that, but most of them do, right? No one should ever take it that far. But mob mentality, that's a hell of a thing. And regardless of your politics, honestly, that's all it was. And that's all it ever will be. And it just so happens that, the wrong kind of people were doing it. And now the selectively chosen and, disseminated pictures and videos of the day will forever be used against anyone who doesn't support foreign terrorists, basically. If you're a Republican, that's always going to be used against you. And that's just the way it is. But to say that American democracy was almost gone on that day, it's just not sane, man. And it's not intellectually honest. And another thing that these TDS suffering people really believe, they honestly believe that it was only about Trump, that this was some sort of byproduct of his narcissistic, dangerous ego. And it had nothing to do with the fact that millions and millions of people were legitimately concerned. And they had very real questions about, after watching the election rules and systems completely change overnight, and contrary to most states' constitution and laws, they had real questions about this. And you know, they use the guise of public health to change all these. Anyway, I digress.
I said before, I don't trust the media on anything because they never give you the full story. So I will allow that there could be this element to the story that is part of the story. I don't think it will probably change my mind that Donald Trump would not concede an election, kept saying it was a fake, and that he had all these reasons to believe that people had voted, like 10,000. He said to the Raffensperger on the call, Raffensperger actually corrected him and said, you claimed that there was 10,000 dead people who voted in Georgia. We looked and we looked and we looked. It was 2. That sums it all up. There was actually 2. Now, he's not on trial for lying. You're apparently allowed to lie to the American people about elections, even though nobody ever really did that before. But okay, he's on trial for breaking specific laws. Forgery.
Well, I mean, no one's done that before. Stacey Abrams contested her election and said that it was.
Well, that's.
So let's be.
Yes, but okay, you're right. Yeah. I concede.
Okay, Hillary Clinton took a very long time. I don't think
Hillary Clinton was there before the night was over in her purple suit, conceding the election.
She didn't. She slept in. You're wrong.
No, I'm not
You're
wrong.
John Podesta came to the podium and said,
it was before dawn of the next day.
Okay, my point is that saying that there was
you
that
lost
there were
your point.
No, I didn't lose my point. My point is that
you're
saying
about
that
Hillary. You were. Hillary conceded as soon as it was obvious that she lost.
The thing that I'm trying to get you to say though, we know that you hate Trump. That has been abundantly obvious.
Yes,
I actually
we do.
think that Trump out of office
for good reason.
Was a good thing for your show because it allowed you to.
It's not about my show, Candace.
No.
That's insulting.
No.
That's insulting.
I'm saying because people that weren't watching your show that you didn't let me finish. You can't be insulted by a sentence I didn't finish.
No, but you keep
I was going
implying
to say that
I'm
people that did not watch your show because there was so much dedication to talking about Trump during those years, then were switched onto your show because you moved on and you started talking about other topics that were crucial and I think brought in more of a conservative base.
Can we
That's
just
not insulting to say.
Yeah, it is. Can we just have this professional courtesy that I concede and I believe you believe everything you say.
Yeah.
Give me the same courtesy.
I said I believe you hate Trump. And
you're saying I'm doing things for ratings or to bring in a different audience.
Bring up ratings. I actually believe that literally amongst my audiences, more conservatives started watching you post Trump.
Yes.
Myself included.
But that's a big.
That's not a bad. I'm sorry I said you got a bigger audience now. My gosh, are you going to cry yourself to sleep? More people like me.
No. You ascribed a reason to it that's not true. I do have a bigger conservative audience and a less woke audience, probably. Yeah. More people who are common sense centrist. Good, fine. I didn't do it for that reason.
I never said you did it for that reason. I said I did not imply that.
Okay, fine.
I didn't. I genuinely meant what I said.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think what he's trying to say here is that, that's what connects him with his liberal leftist roots. That, that's what makes it all, all of his left-leaning viewers, as long as he can maintain his hate for Trump and as long as he keeps up his fear-mongering about all things Trump and MAGA, his people will let it slide. And, when he shares his true feelings about all the other crazy gender stuff or whatever wild and wacky initiatives that he comes out against on the left.
I think what I really
when Trump got out of office, you started focusing on different topics other than Trump. And people were able to see that.
Well, he wasn't president anymore, of course.
I'm not faulting you. I'm just making a comment that I think that your audience base has gotten a lot bigger since Trump left office. Some people might even take that as a compliment.
Different.
Crazy, but some people might take this as a compliment.
Thank you. Well, for that part.
So what I think she's trying to tell Bill is, that when he talks about common sense and reasonable things, without all the TDS insanity and insurrection fantasy, more people watch. And honestly, I think that's probably true. I wonder what he thinks that could possibly mean.
Yeah, because you're talking about, like we just talked about, trans kids and bringing up geography and things. And I think that while Trump was in office, and this is not just your show, it was even my show, I think everything was about Trump. Everything was about Trump.
I agree.
Right? And it's never been that way for any other president. And not everything was about
because
Obama.
Other presidents weren't not like that.
We have definitely, I think, I believe that and we can disagree on this. I think that from the second he announced that he was coming down, there was a media obsession with taking him down like I've never seen. It actually woke me up. I was on the liberal side and it turned me into a conservative. It was vicious. It was nasty. It was calling him things that he wasn't.
You
didn't participate in that. But pretending that Trump was like a avowed racist that was trying to bring back the Klansmen was a little bit like dramatic,
But that happens with every president and everybody who gets that high up in the tree.
3, 2, 1. No, man. If he truly believes that, the man's been fooled. He thinks every president gets that treatment. That's insane. This is another thing that he possibly cannot believe. Everything Trump said or did, from policy to who he ate dinner with, was re-engineered and manipulated to make him look, sound, smell, and feel like some kind of backwoods racist, right? At the very same time, Joe was literally saying things like, poor kids are just as bright as white kids, and if you can't decide between me or Trump, then you ain't black. And the media went completely silent on that stuff. So there is no way that Bill can possibly believe that that's the same treatment, the treatment that all presidents get. No way. Just flip on MSNBC today at any random time, and I promise you, you'll still see lies and vitriol all about Donald Trump. It won't take even 5 minutes to hear something, because they have no choice. I mean, that is what their channel is built on. Just look at CNN. They stopped talking about Trump after the election, and they're just about gone and forgotten. These people have no choice but to keep these narratives alive.
I don't know how far back it goes, probably to George Washington. When a person is the one who's going to be in power, the people who want to prevent that, who think oppositely of how he thinks or she thinks, yes, that's what they do. They try to...
Honestly, man, that's not even close to the same thing. You can't possibly conflate the hard treatment, I think fair treatment, that Obama got from one channel. You can't compare that with the constant negative coverage that Trump got from literally every network and every paper on the planet, and still does. Which really, as I say this, it really makes me appreciate how strong the conservative mind really is. Every lever of power and propaganda has been standing against Trump for 8 years now, and we just will not allow them to win. Honestly, guys, that's really something. And that's just about as much Bill Maher as I can take, even though I absolutely love Candace, and I do like Bill Maher. But anyways, that's just my take. Let me know your take in the comments, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. We'll see you in the next one.